Let's head to the phones. GOP political strategist, co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good morning. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday Part 3, according to, I guess that's how the networks are covering it right now, Super Tuesday 3. Let's go through some of the scenarios that are out there. I guess the popular scenarios right now that Donald Trump is in command in Florida, but in Ohio, it's a toss-up between Donald Trump and John Kasich. If Donald Trump were to lose Ohio to John Kasich but win Florida, what does that set the stage for going forward?
Yeah, I think that is the most likely scenario. I mean, I still think, other scenarios are possible, but I think that is the most likely. I mean, the fact that he canceled a rally in Florida today and instead is doing a rally in Ohio instead, I think tells you where he thinks he needs to be. And I think the fact that Kasich is doing 2 rallies in Ohio today with Mitt Romney, tells you, Kasich thinks he needs that at this point. So, yeah, if that happens, I think it means it's possible to stop Trump before the convention comes around from getting the majority of the delegates that he needs. There's, I think, 5 more winner-take-all states between Wednesday and the end of the primary overall. And so I think there's, because the rest of the states are proportional aside from those 5, I think there is a way to basically keep Trump from getting that majority he needs. Now, the problem is Kasich then stays in, and he probably gets some strength out of winning Ohio in that scenario. I don't know how much of a problem that would be for Cruz. It could be a problem because Cruz really needs a one-on-one race. So this is really the dilemma that Cruz faces, is that he really wants Trump in a way to win both Florida and Ohio because it forces that one-on-one race that he wants and really desperately wants. On the other hand, if that happens, the networks and the major media are going to really say this race is over. And the path for Trump to get to that 1237 delegate number becomes much more doable, and he'll have different paths to get there.
Overall, is it over if Trump wins Ohio and Florida?
I think it's really difficult. I mean, first of all, I think it'll be almost impossible for Cruz to end up with more delegates than Trump. But obviously the bigger threat is that he's got a much easier path to 1237. So, yeah, I think you get to a point where you're going to have to start beating Trump in states that he should naturally win. You've got, for example, New Jersey is one of the winner-take-all states. Arizona is one of the winner-take-all states. You're probably not going to beat Trump in New Jersey. Can you beat him in Arizona? Given all the focus he's had on building the wall and on immigration, I would think he would be very, very strong in Arizona. So I think, Cruz would probably need to win at least 3 and perhaps 4 of those 5 winner-take-all states, and then he'd have to start getting 60, 65% in the proportional states from here on out if that happens. So it just becomes a much more challenging and daunting task given the percentage of the delegates that you need if Trump were to win those 2 states on Tuesday. Now, that said, New York Times had an interesting story about Cruz over the weekend, and it made the case that the other 3 states, Missouri, Illinois, and North Carolina, have more delegates up for grabs on Tuesday than Florida and Ohio do. And that's part of why Cruz is spending so much time in Missouri and North Carolina and even in Illinois. They each allocate delegates differently. They're not winner take all, but he can really pull some delegates out of different parts of those states, and so that is going to be another thing to watch. Is yes, there's a lot of attention on Florida and Ohio because they're battleground states and they matter. But if Cruz can end up really performing well with delegates compared to Trump, I think that may be also another narrative coming out of Tuesday.
Very interesting. It'll be something to watch for sure. A discussion point that's been held over Rubio, and this was something even going back into last week, should Rubio drop out before Florida? If he just gets routed by Donald Trump in Florida, what does that do for his future in politics? Because you would think that even though he says that, I'm not worried about that, he's got to be a little bit worried about that, right?
Oh, I'm sure he would have to be worried about that. It's hard when you're running for president to think about not your future being anything other than what you're doing at the moment. And so thinking about, well, if I don't do well here, it may hurt my ability to run for governor 2 years from now. It's hard to think that way, but you have to have people around you that you trust that care about your well-being that are thinking that way. And look, everybody who's on a presidential campaign, you're paid to think that you're going to win, and you work so hard for so long. You put so much into it. It's hard to sort of have that realistic viewpoint. And so I think, look, I don't know what their internal numbers show. There's a lot of numbers floating around. There are a few polls in the last 3 or 4 days that have showed it as a single-digit race with Rubio closing in. There's a few that have showed him down 20 or 25 points.
Yeah.
So if he were to lose by double digits, it would be an epic disaster, and would obviously end his campaign and really probably foreclose any chance for him to run for statewide office in the near term. If he were to narrowly lose or to tie or basically tie or even narrowly win, I think he would have a comeback narrative that would change things a bit and certainly open up future opportunities to him. So there's a lot riding on this. It seems to me it would have been a lot safer for him to have dropped out last week on Wednesday or even Friday and save himself the risk and the embarrassment of losing. And I think if they were certain he was going to lose, that probably would have happened. But I don't think they're certain of that, and that's why they want to sort of continue to risk this and put all their chips in the middle of the table.
Matt, the big story over the weekend was the violence at the Trump rallies, and I think there's a little bit of blame to go around on both sides, the protesters and for Donald Trump. Obviously, he has said things at rallies and in interviews that have been a little divisive, you could say. How much responsibility? What does Trump have to do to prevent some of this violence from expanding? Because that's what I see happening is the media running with this, and we both know just from previous events in U.S. history, once the media is focused on riots, on protest, they tend to grow. So how does Donald Trump or the Republican Party stop this from happening, especially when you get to a convention in Cleveland?
Yeah, it's a good question. And look, Chicago was sort of a powder keg, given all the controversies that have occurred there in the last couple of years. That was ready-made for that kind of protest. And so I think you might see Trump avoid, cities where a large disruptive protest can be quickly put together. But it's clear they're trying to ramp things up. You had a guy basically try to rush the stage in Ohio yesterday that made for a tense moment. And move on, and these groups are really trying to recruit people to try to interrupt the events he's doing. I saw there was something about people trying to bring tomatoes into these events to try to throw them at Trump. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if I were him, this is the challenge he faces. The challenge he faces is that his supporters are motivated because of the anger and the anxiety they have, and so if you tamp that down, it reduces the motivation they may have to support him. And so this is the dilemma he faces. It's different, but it seems to me this is a great moment for Trump to really rise above his own weaknesses, his own shortcomings as a candidate, and really seek the better angels in all of us. But in a way, I think even if he were to do that, I'm not sure it would reduce the feelings that a lot of these protesters and these groups have that he's made anti-immigrant and racist comments in the past. And so I don't know how much he can tamp things down. I think what's clear is reporters are very worried when they cover his events. A lot of times they're getting spit at and treated harshly. That's obviously not something you want. And it does seem like we are on the precipice of something disastrous happening at one of his rallies. I mean, you had one of his supporters sucker punch a protester a couple of days ago. That guy was arrested. It seems like we're right on the edge of something much worse happening. And to some extent, I think there's a moral responsibility that Trump has that by sort of egging a lot of this stuff on with the comments he's made, that he's ultimately going to be held responsible if something terrible happens. Boy, it feels like we are right on the edge of something terrible happening.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, and hopefully that won't happen. And You said that hopefully Trump will appeal to the better angels. I don't know. When he was, I can't remember which show he was on yesterday on one of the Sunday shows, and said that his legal team was looking into paying for the guy who sucker punched a protester. To me, that just gives those who are amped up and who are moronic the idea that, hey, Trump's gonna bail me out if I go after one of these protesters. I don't know if that helps the situation at all.
Totally, and in a way, it makes that person feel like they're doing the Trump a favor, and that they may even get notoriety for doing it. I mean, that's a crazy incentive for someone. It's first of all, the police and the Secret Service that are, that are protecting him at these events are putting their lives in danger, doing these events. But yeah, look, this is a very scary situation. It does harken back a little bit to the 60s. I don't know that it's all the way there, but boy, it does feel like we were right on the edge. Right on the edge here, something going in the wrong direction. And I agree with you. I don't think Trump is understanding exactly how serious this is. I think he kind of feels like this is still a game. It's certainly not a game for a lot of these people that are putting their lives on the line.
Absolutely. Matt Mackowiak, always appreciate your time, and we'll wait and see what happens at Trump rallies, and also tomorrow on Super Tuesday 3. Should be pretty interesting to watch as the results come in.
Yes, sir. Good to talk to you.
Have a good one. That's Matt Mackowiak. Go and check out his website at mustreadtexas.com, where you can get all the latest Texas news, opinion, all that great stuff there at mustreadtexas.com.